So, you decided to rebuild. Good for you. What is rebuilding? Well, let's properly define that. Rebuilding, emphasis on you're not make something new, but you are to build up again. You are doing something or redoing what's already been done. The work has already been done for you. You're taking an idea that has been made. There's a wisdom principle in this. There's a scripture that Paul wrote about. He spoke about entering into other men's labors. We are laborers one to another. People throughout the years, the centuries, have already, people in your lifetime, those who have come before you and other generations have already done the work for you. But their work has been undone by those who have not kept it up. Think about your home for a minute. Whether you own or you rent, but let's just imagine for a moment that you're a homeowner. If you're a homeowner, when you bought your home, likely it was new. Picture for a moment that it was new. When you first got that home, likely nothing was there. It was an empty house. Nice, but empty. Eventually, you placed objects in that thing, in the house. You bought furniture. You have a refrigerator. You filled it with food. A nice sofa to sit on. Bedroom set. Things in the bathroom. And for a while, it felt great coming home to your brand new home. It smelled nice, looked nice. It was nice. It is nice. It's your home. Then after a while, you noticed cobwebs here and there. You say, no biggie, it's just one cobweb. No need to have a breakdown. But after a while, after dealing with the day in, day out work and other activities, you get into the routine of life and it becomes mundane, and then you start to notice that that cobweb got a little bit more dustier, and eventually there were cobwebs in another corner of the room. And after a while, if you don't clean that room, if you don't enter into that room, if you don't dust, you don't mop, you don't sweep, you don't clean, you don't polish, that beautiful room becomes dusty. It becomes unkept all by itself. Not particularly that you done anything to it. Not that you have disrespected it. Not that you have lived in a way that was odd or strange or extraordinary. But it's something very simple. It's a simple key word called maintenance. There's a saying called the cost of living. For a long time, I thought that was a fly-by-night word. I thought it was a fun word, a buzzword. But as I grew older, I started to notice that there really is a cost to living. Life was given to you freely by your parents. You may have not chosen to be here, which is true. You may have come from a family that was disoriented when it came to loving and kindness, responsibility and work ethic. You may even have never had a chance to have a true family. You may have been adopted or have come up through the foster care system and had multiple experiences with what they would consider family. You may have not known your parents and have come up and acquiring people here along the way, mentors and friends and associates who have become like family to you. But whoever your parents were, whether you have had a great experience with them, an awful one, or simply none at all, God chose you to be here in this time for a reason. And that life was given to you freely. Oh, it may not have been a great life, but it is your life. And now you've noticed that the years have gone by, and what once was beautiful, what once was great, what once was full of energy, invigorating to you, is now the mundane, the rundown, the run over, the destitute, the disputed, you're always a contender and never a champion, never a victor. You're always the underdog. You may have even come from a family that was where it seemed like everyone else is celebrated. They're always succeeding. They're always the victor. Maybe even a family that was heavily tied to sports, and you may have had a sibling who was better at everything. They got all the trophies, all the accolades, all of the recognition, and everything that you've done has been secondary or even third place or not considered at all. And you may have felt that even with all of that, you still believe that there was a special place for you. And although the family never made room for you, you still believe that your life has purpose. That purpose is rebuilding. See, rebuilding is not to make new. It is simply to remake, to build up again, to do the work of the maintenance that needs to be done. For years, they have not done the work. For years, they were riding off of the old flame, the old wagon, what once was back in the heyday, their day, their generation. But now over the years, those trophies have become tarnished. That great thing that your sibling did, your brother or your sister, an aunt or an uncle, that great thing that they did, even if it was a gold medal in the Olympics, that thing that hangs over the fireplace or the mantle on the shelf at home, in the front room where everyone could see, at grandma's house, on her wall of family accolades. That great thing that they did is already over with. It was a moment in time in history, and it is now that history. So much has gone on since that time. Perhaps the very people who gave the award are now gone on. Even the one who won the award. Perhaps they are too passed on. All of the people who thought that moment in time, that game, that contest, that war, have forgotten all about it. Yeah, perhaps there are one or two or even a few that are still around now that from time to time we'll discuss that day of when that great thing happened. But for everyone else, it's history. His story. What's your story? Perhaps yours is you've noticed that life goes on. Perhaps you've been the one all the time. Although a little envious, maybe perhaps even jealous. But you've noticed that there were other things to be concerned about. Other events happening that were right now. Not some great thing that happened a decade ago or longer. Not something that had happened before your time, before you could remember. But what's going on right now is that you've noticed that no one has done the maintenance. The walls are burned. There's a scripture in Habakkuk 2:1. It says, write the vision down and make it plain on tablets and place it high upon the wall, that those who will see the vision will run. Let's take Jerusalem for a second. When the prophet said these words, it's almost certain that he meant to write down the word of the Lord, perhaps the vision that was given to him, or that the prophecy that was spoke about God's people. Perhaps when he did this in Habakkuk's day, the people went to the gates of the city and placed it on those same walls. And when the Babylonians and the Medes and the Persians came to take the city and burn the gates and burned the walls and burned the cities and took the people captive. Let's imagine for a second that that same vision was still there. In the ash and in the rubble, sitting there. Upon the part of the wall that was not consumed. And it still read the same vision, the same plan, the same dream, the same prophecy that God had spoken over his people. Only a little dusty, a little broken down. But still very legible to be read by the people. As a reminder that God was still with them. Let's imagine for a second the people of that city, the Jews at the time, who were living amidst all of that rubble and heap and ash. Remembering the former glory, talking about the former glory, when God came down and dwelled with man in the temple. The splendor of Solomon's streets, his silver and his gold, and the horses and the chariots, the peace, the prosperity, the prominence. Perhaps even they remember the glory of the prophet Elijah, or the prophet Isaiah, or of any number of gifted persons in the city. Perhaps they spoke about David and the things that he had done to accomplish taking the city as God's city. Some of those elders from the day of the great city were still around. They were children at the time. And in nearly that century of being exiled, and some of the Jews still living in the city, they would have been going about life as usual, amidst all of the rubble, all of the heat, all of the ashes. And would have walked by the saying of the prophet that's still posted on the wall. Perhaps you're the one who noticed that everyone is living in ashes. No, everyone still talks about the former glory while only living in the present ashes of that glory. You see, God knew when he told the prophet to write those sayings down. He knew when Solomon built the temple and the people took part in it. He knew when he told David to put the plans together. God knew at the beginning of time that this great city, these great people would be taken into captivity and the city burned. They would be in exile. God knew that. And so he gave them a clue as to what their purpose was. And so we find this minor prophet this man of God, unsincere Jew, praying after he heard that the walls of the city had been burned. He prayed, "Oh God, his prayer was, "Oh God, the city of your people is destroyed. And they have not so much as kept it, cleaned it up, washed it over. Yes, I know that we're in exile, that we are not great like we used to be. But if anything can be done, Lord, let it be done. Give me favor, and I'll go in. And I'll rebuild the walls." See, notice that Nehemiah didn't say that he would go and make the city great again. He didn't say that he would become the greatest Bible prophet in Old Testament times. I'm sure he didn't consider himself to be much of any kind of importance, but he recognized two things. One, that this was God's city, the city of God and his people, and that two, they were the people of God. He was a child of God. His people were children of God, the only people at that time on the planet who had a covenant with God, Jehovah, Yahweh. And he cried, "Lord, help us to rebuild the walls." That's all he wanted to do. See, rebuilding the walls means to put the hedge back around what the greats have done before you. Think about it. In all of those years, no one ever assembled a team, a city of people, a community, the community at large of Jewish people did not even so much as try to clean up the streets. They would have been living in all of that ash, all of that rubble. Still talking about back in their heyday, while there is much work to be done now. They would have been very familiar with the sayings of the prophets and the history of the people. But in all of those years, one man prayed and asked God, please let me go back and at least rebuild the wall again.